Hi guys, it's Ollie from Rad Season. Welcome to the Rad Season show. I'm super excited to be joined today by legendary snowboarder and the coach of the US snowboarding halfpipe team, JJ Thomas. JJ, how are you, man?
Excellent. Good morning.
How's things? Whereabouts are you? You're back at home, right?
I
After
am.
after Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm home right now in San Diego, California, kind of recharging the batteries after a big month we just did in Switzerland. We had a huge camp over there that kind of the whole industry goes to. It's pretty much the Olympics before the Olympics. Every Olympic hopeful for big air, slopestyle, and half pipe is in
Mhm.
Sauce Fe training for the month. So we were over there and just had a huge camp, and I just got home. I just got over jet lag, and I'm getting ready to get jet lagged again because I leave on Saturday to Austria for another camp.
Oh wow! And how did it all go in Switzerland? Do like was it good conditions? Do you guys?
It was incredible, actually. Typically, when we go there, you'll ride 2 or 3 days a week if you're
Mhm.
lucky, and you'll get big snowstorms. And this year was kind of magic. When we landed, a big storm hit, so they closed the resort for 2 or 3 days, but they needed the snow. And then the park builders got in there and they made everything perfect. And then it was blue all month.
Nice, man.
I've never seen that there. Like, it was almost too much. We were all exhausted, the coaches, the athletes, but it really elevated the sport. Like, the sport changed in the month we were there. It did a quantum leap in progression, and I think it was because of the weather, the facility, and just everyone knowing the Olympics is coming up. The antes get upped, and it was crazy watching freestyle snowboarding change again. It hasn't really done a leap like that in about 10 years, to be honest.
And like, do you reckon was that like because everyone was there, everyone was kind of pushing themselves, and you're sort of feeding off that vibe, right?
Yeah, it's just part of the Olympic cycle. I mean, you see the sport, every 4 years right before just kind of do these big jumps. The level goes from here to boom right here. And we haven't really seen it like this in, I'd say, 10 years. I'd say
Okay.
09, 10, the sport made a quantum leap. It went from single corks and 1080s to double corks. And this last trip to Switzerland, half pipe specifically, went from double corks to triple corks.
That's gnarly.
It was nuts. I mean, literally, one guy did one day, and it was the first one anyone's ever seen live. And then after that, people are like, "Oh, it's doable, and it looks really cool. I better learn it." And then by the end of camp, I think 4 or 5 people tried triples, 4 landed. I mean, that was a big change. It was nuts. It was
So is
wild.
that all going to be then expected for the Olympics, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's
Nice.
it's fun. It's so fun because it's speculation right now. Like, no one's ever done one in competition. So now the question people are asking is, well, okay, you can do one in practice, but where in the run are they going to do it? Because you
Mhm.
need so much speed and amplitude. And then number two, people are saying, how is it going to get judged compared to other trades? So it's speculative right now, but it's fun. That's what makes it so cool. So it
Yeah.
was. And then in slope style, it was the same thing. Guys were doing quad corks in 1800s and 1980, spinning and flipping more than ever. So it was crazy. It's a fun time for the sport. It just did a huge leap. Like I said, it's been pretty dormant for 10 years, as far as it's always getting pushed, but not like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it just went boom, like through the roof. So it was crazy. It's like Bitcoin out there.
Cool, man. Well, I guess I'd love to take it back to before you started getting into coaching and how initially you got into snowboarding, and because you started off pretty young, and yeah, how did that all begin?
Well, I grew up in Golden, which is a suburb west of Denver, Colorado. So, back then everyone was kind of a weekend warrior skier. A lot of people were, and
Mhm.
my parents were too. So we'd go up and I'd ski like 10 times a year on the weekends. And I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot. And I was like, it's cool. And then I started seeing snowboards on the mountain when I was in third, fourth, fifth grade. And it just looked so cool. And half the mountains, they weren't even allowed. So they were like this super rebellious kind of skate vibe, but it
Yeah.
just looked amazing. And so I was drawn to it. And eventually led to me, I think in 4th or 5th grade, buying a board off my friend. You know, I had my Sorel boots on. Back then, that's all you had. And I just learned how to do it. And I was just hooked. And growing up, I was I was a jock straight up. I mean, I was baseball, basketball, football, swim team. Like my parents kept me in sports. They overlapped. And I loved them all. I just loved them. I loved my friends. I loved all of it. It was really fun for me. And then when I found snowboarding, it like took me over. It just literally encompassed me. And I pretty much within 3 years, by the time I was going into high school, my poor parents and everyone had me all primed to watch, basketball and baseball games. And I just quit them all. I was like, I'm out. I'm going to snowboard. And people were like, what? Snowboarding? It's not even a career. And I was like, it's going to be, trust me, it's going to be big. There's no stopping this. And everyone's like, what are you doing? And then sure enough, 10 years later, it was doing its thing. I was at the Olympics and it all went well. And the rest is history.
You were getting sponsored when you were in high school then, right? I mean, when you were around sort of like
sure.
15.
Yeah, I mean, I turned pro when I was 15. I won my first pro event when I was 15 out at Big Bear. And that kind of set the stage. And at the time, I think I was the youngest pro Burton signed to a professional contract.
Which is crazy. I mean, how was that experience?
It was cool. I was just in it. I didn't think much of it. I was just, and at the time, the industry was cooking and there was money flying everywhere. And I had a couple friends who were a year or two older than me and they were getting deals too. But it was just kind of the norm. I was like, all right, cool. Let's just keep going. And then Shaun White, he was 5 years younger than me. And I think he got put on a professional contract when he was 13. So he ended up taking that title from me and everything else. But it was cool to be part of it back then and get in so young. And yeah, I'm just grateful for it.
Nice. And when did the whole, I guess like when you were thinking about, okay, this could potentially be a career, was that like when the announcement was for the Olympics, or was it kind of,
no,
that was kind of thinking like before then,
yeah, I just knew it was going to be huge just from how much I loved it. And it was such a vibe back in the day in Colorado when you'd go to the resorts. Snowboarding had such a powerful presence and the community was so tight knit and everyone loved it so much and it was growing so fast. You could just see people drawn to the culture, like the clothes and the style of it. And it was just growing. You could just see it.
Yeah.
It was just going to go. And I just knew it in my heart. I was like, this is going to be a huge sport. I don't care what anyone says. This is going big one way or another. And then sure enough, 98, it got in the Winter Olympics in Tokyo or Nagano. And that helped it. I almost hurt it though, because that whole story was Ross, the racer guy, got busted for pot or whatever. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
The first time, snowboarding in the Olympics and we're known as the potheads of racer guy, whatever. Silly story. Kind of funny.
That was his introduction, right? And everyone's sort of hit the mainstream and people were like...
So then when we went in 2002 to Salt Lake, we were like the bad boy snowboarders. Like, oh, you guys gonna get busted for it now? Like, what do you guys got in your systems? I was like, what? Like, whatever. So it was kind of funny. But there's no stopping it. And I could tell the train was moving at a young age. So I just hopped on and took that risk.
And were you kind of focusing on competitions sort of like around about that time? So sort of like late 90s, was that sort of...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, right when I started snowboarding, I wanted to compete because I was obviously a competitor. I played sports. I was like, how do you compete in this? I want to see how I stack up against other kids. It was a good time for the sport. It was cool. But nice. to my point was, I was competitive kid growing up. So I wanted to compete. And we found a series and just started bouncing around doing events, and then ended up doing a nationals. They have these they still have USASA nationals, and it's the biggest, baddest, best event for young amateur snowboarders. And that year we went to Tahoe, and I ended up, winning one event, got third in another. And I was like, and I got a bunch of sponsors. I was like, see, Mom, I can do this. If I'm the best now, if I stick with it, I bet I'll be the best when I'm older. And she was like, yeah, we'll see. So I just ran with it.
Nice, man. And then, so would you say like wasn't it 2001? That was kind of then the year which led to X Games and qualifying and yeah,
Yeah,
how
that was a big season. I mean, that was 2001-2 season was like arguably one of the biggest seasons of my life for sure. Um, it was similar to this year. You go into the Olympic year and they don't pick the team until 2 weeks before the Olympics.
Mhm.
It's because they want the best guys. And I started off the season cold. I was like 10th place, 12th place, and you need first, seconds, and thirds to make the team. But I was feeling good. I put in the work and my body was strong. And I knew at some point I was going to win something, but I didn't know when. And call it luck, whatever. But the last 2 Olympic qualifiers, I found my stride. And I went third, first, next week, X Games, first, right into the Olympics, third. That was my run. And I just did it. And I got all those accolades within 6 weeks of each other. And it's kind of funny. 20 years later, we still talk about it. It's kind of like the highlight of my resume. And in hindsight, it was just a 6-week run of hard work and really just timing. So it's
but
kind
it's
of
sort
cool.
of build up to that, right? It's not just like
yeah,
it's not just the 6 weeks and
no, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that goes into it. But it's funny when you look back on your careers. I mean, you can shape your life. That's what's fun about sports. One day can shape your life and your future. I mean, look at the Olympics. You have a good day there, and you're the gold medalist or the silver or the bronze medalist. You have a bad day. It's like you didn't go.
Yeah,
it's weird. Sports are cool like that, though. So that's why I tell my guys. I'm just like, you guys, stay in the game. Get to the start. Just make sure you enter the race. If you don't even get to the race and go, so many people check out mentally before the gun even goes. They're just like, I don't want to go, or they're scared. They get in. And I'm like, dude, just keep a good attitude and start. Just go. Enter the event, and anything can happen. So that's kind of something I learned.
And were you kind of, I guess, during that time in the lead up to the Olympics, were you sort of just trying to get in a good mindset and be positive? And
I was just trying to find a run. I had a good mindset. I was the strongest I've ever been. I just couldn't find a run. The tricks, I couldn't find a way to put it all together. I was clicking, but I just didn't find my flow. And then right before I had two quality to go, and I just found a run that I liked, and it worked, and it just clicked. And all of a sudden I went from 10th in the world to first overnight. Like within a weekend, I went from being the 10th best half pipe rider in the world to literally the first in one weekend. It was boom, and there was no stopping. And then I just rode that wave.
And
weird.
How was it like that whole, I guess, after the Olympics? I mean, that must have, that would just be a life changer, right? Like, I mean, like with you guys, with the three of you on the podium, and then, it's almost like then just doing all these mainstream interviews, you're on TV straight away, everything's broadcasted worldwide. It's like the biggest audience ever, right? And yeah, how was that?
It was a trip. That's all I can say. I've never experienced anything like it to date. It was funny because when we went into the event, snowboarders, we were such kind of rebel bad boy, like keep them to the side. We don't want these guys to mess up the big show. And I think in Salt Lake City, a bunch of things went our way. The weather was great. A huge ski event, an alpine ski event, got canceled because of wind. So they shifted. People don't know this. They shifted the primetime coverage to the halfpipe. We weren't supposed to get primetime coverage, but
no way.
No, but the way it worked out, there was some wind at the other resort. Cancel that. Go to halfpipe snowboarding, and the stars aligned. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. The way NBC filmed it was amazing. They had a guy in the halfpipe on the first hit, which they should bring back, that was shooting fisheye. So they know where you were going, and he would get this view from the bottom, which actually really shows how big you're going. They just killed it. The broadcast was amazing. The crowd was amazing. Every snowboarder in the finals, they put on a show. And that really, I think, for a lot of people in the world, that was the first time millions of people saw competitive snowboarding, unless you were kind of part of the cult and you followed the X Games and the Do Tour. But if you weren't into that and you were just grandma and grandpa at home watching the Olympics, that was their first time seeing competitive snowboarding. And everyone just did such a good job of the athletes, the production crew, the crowd. It was magic. And it set it off. It just set it off into a frenzy. And then, we went on the little media tour, and it was really cool having the two guys to tour with.
Mm-hmm.
So versus doing it alone, it was really fun. When you're up at the mic all the time and you get a question you don't like, you just pawn it off on your buddy. It's kind of mean, but you're just like, I think I'm gonna let Danny answer that, or hey Ross, what? And they're just like, they look at you like F you, and it's fun. So we had so much fun, but just grateful, really, really grateful for that whole experience and that whole thing. Because to be honest, I haven't been at a snowboard event like that since. I just haven't seen a crowd like that. I haven't heard roars of a crowd like that. It was just a special day. It was really cool.
And do you reckon like now it's sort of like people are getting more used to it, and that was sort of like you said, it was the first time that a lot of people have seen it on that kind of stage? And that's yeah, you're right. But also just no one's built just that setup they had, there's a couple things too. It was a daytime event. They've really moved a lot of the night to everything's at a night event now, under the lights at night, which TV likes, but for spectators, it's no fun. You're freezing. I mean, freezing cold. Yeah.
And the athletes don't like it. It's scary and icy, and it's just not that cool. So the vibes haven't been the same since. I mean, when you get daytime with a stadium, I don't know how many people, there must have been 20, 30,000 people there. It was a soccer stadium built around the halfpipe. No one's done that since. So there's some things they could learn from that if they wanted to recreate it. But it'll get done again. It will. But that was just a special thing. It was cool. It was nuts.
And what did you do? So like afterwards, was that kind of when you were like looking into filming and kind of like sort of like film parts and things like that? Was that kind of then the transition?
Well, yeah. So you go on the media tour. You're basically like a monkey for months, 6 months, and you just shake hands and kiss babies and sign autographs. And then I definitely got the powder itch, the next like quite a while. I mean, the 2006 games I went for just because I had to for sponsorships, but I really wasn't in it like I was in 02. I was into trying to really kind of round out my career. And at that time, the sport was different, and you could have a career if you were just competing in halfpipe, but really we had this unrealistic expectation. And guys like Shaun White and Travis Rice, there was like 2 guys in the world who could do it all. These guys would compete in halfpipe and slopestyle and film video parts and a rail jam. And that became the new standard. So my team manager was like, okay, do the pipe. We need film parts too. Who are you going to film with this year? And who are you going to shoot photos? And you're just going, what? But I ended up
was that like sponsorship pressure and stuff then? And then
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's your bread and butter. That's how you're getting paid. So you listen to them and go, well, okay, that's what I have to do. But I ended up really enjoying riding powder and jumping in powder and cliffs and the whole aspect of, free riding. It just really, it spoke to me, and I loved it, and I experienced great things. But I also really kind of blew an opportunity in 2006 to make a big run. If I would have stayed focused like I was in 02, I think I could have for sure made the team or gotten really close. And then fast forward to 2010, the end of my competitive career, I rededicated around 2007, 8. I made the decision. I go, okay, I'm getting older and the competitive train's moving fast. I can either stay in the powder and stay out here and film, or if I want to compete, this is my last chance. And I made a huge decision to say I'm going back into competition.
Okay.
And I lost a lot of sponsors because when I came back, I was the older guy and I was rusty. And there was these new kids and they were beating me and they had the good style. And I was kind of old whack style. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, good luck. But I stuck with it and I just kept grinding it and grinding it out. And right before the 09-10 season, which is the Vancouver Olympics,
Mhm.
I caught stride again. All the hard work paid off, and that actually I think was a more rewarding time in my career than 2002. Even though 2002 I won X Games, I got a bronze medal, I got 5 podiums. In 2010, I qualified for the team with Greg Bretz. Me and him, we tied for that 2010 team. And when you're the tie, they make a coach's discretion. They go, hey, you guys both made it kind of technically, but we're going to pick who we think's best. And JJ, you're old and you had a great run. We're going with the young guy. And I said, okay, thanks. Screw you. Hang up. I knew it was coming. But just the fact I was hanging with these guys and I was getting on, I think I got 2-3 podiums that year. I stood on the box with Shaun White, Louie Vito, Scotty Lego. And just the fact I was hanging with these kids and beating all of my peers, all the guys who were my age, I had them all owned. I had them in the bag. And I was just in with the kids now. I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm proud of I was more proud of that for some reason than I was my younger stuff when I was 20. So
were you working way harder and like you were kind of
way harder
training, right? And sort of, training more than kind of
I just had my focus back. I just had my focus. You know, when I was young and I went to the 2002 Olympics, I was like this. I was like halfpipe. I don't care what anyone says, halfpipe. And 09, 10, 11 seasons, I went same focus. I went halfpipe. I'm just going to compete. I'm not going to listen to the noise about filming. I'm not going to get sidetracked and do this party or this rail trip. No, just compete. And it pays. And it did for me. But it was 2 rough seasons, you know, of like missing finals, getting 10th place, missing a cut, sponsors dropping you, another sponsor dropped you. And then 09, 10, I came back and I really refined my style. And it was really the best I've ever snowboarded those next 2 years. And that sent me into retirement a happy man because I'm good with it. It felt good.
Was there any kind of thought then, what you were going to do? Did you think like past snowboarding and think, okay, what's going to happen afterwards, right?
This sounds really irresponsible, but I didn't think of it. And I knew I probably should have, but I'm such a believer in just focusing on what you're doing and going all in on what you're doing at the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling people because they were asking me because I was getting older. I was 29, 30 and people go, what are you going to do, man? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I got out of school when I was 15 years old. You know, I did online schooling for high school, didn't go to college. So I was in an interesting spot, but I didn't worry about it. I was like, I'm going to figure it out and I'm just going to see this through. I'm going to snowboard as long as it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just kind of all unfolded naturally and perfectly because then in 2011, I was competing and I was really riding the best I've ever had ridden. And I crashed really hard at a competition at warm up, like right before we were going to compete. I had a horrible crash, landed on the deck, like Mick twist, 12 feet out, hit the deck, bounced into the flat bottom, half knocked out. And I'm sitting there and I'm hearing people and I'm like got tunnel vision. I'm like half conscious. And I hear someone scoop me up. He's like, Jay, it's me. It's Louie. It's Louie. I got you. Hold on. And he picks me up and he just carries me. We side slip down to the bottom. And I go, thank you, Louie. And I just lay down until the doctor comes over and assessed me. It was like, hey, you are like half knocked out. I think you tore your ACL. We're getting you out of here. And you're not competing this week. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And what happened was when I did that, I was 30, 31. But something clicked in me when I was healing that next week from that crash. Something in my soul was just like, you're done. You're not going to crash like that again. You are never going to hit your head like that and not know who the president is and things like this. Like those days are over. It's something clicked. And I made the decision I was going to quit and no one could understand it because I just got all my sponsors back. I was making good money again. I was getting better. And I was like, I'm done. And I only told like my mom, my girlfriend at the time, a few people. And then that same kid who picked me up out of the half pipe called me a week later. And he said, hey, JJ, I'm having some, I want a private coach. would you consider coaching me this year while you heal? Because I know you can't ride, right? I was like, no, I can't. He's like, would you coach me? I was like, let me sleep on it. That's really weird. I don't know. Let me think about it. And I slept
Were,
on it.
were many people coaching back then? Like did people have private coaches, or was it?
Yeah, Shaun White
Okay.
did. Shaun White had Bud Keene, and that was about it. Other than that, you were on the U.S. team. But it kind
Okay.
of, there was still a lot of money in the sport. So it kind of was a trend. Like if you're at the top, you want your own private coach, which makes sense because they just care about you. And kind of ironic, Louie and Shaun were both being coached by Bud privately.
Right. Okay.
And then Shaun's like, hey, Bud, come with me. Let's do this. And kind of took Louie away from him. And then Louie called me and said, hey, you want to coach me? I was like, coaching? I don't know about coaching, but I'll try it. And I tried it that season with him and I loved it. And that was it. I just never went back. I was like, oh, this is it. I'm out. This is a perfect exit for me. Like I literally just got lucky and got handed an exit strategy. So I just rolled with that. And then 10 years later, here I am.
Nice, man.
Weird, right?
And was it? I mean, I guess it's kind of going through all personal experiences, and it's not like because you've been there. It's kind of you can give these guys advice, and like it's properly authentic because you've been in similar situations, right?
Exactly. That's kind of what I pride myself on is just experience and exactly just relying on what I've went through as an athlete. And then really it's been cool gaining experience as a coach because it is different and you're not a great coach when no matter how good of a snowboarder you were, your first season coaching, I got news for you. You're not that great. You might have been the world's best snowboarder last year, but that doesn't mean you're the world's best coach this year. It takes time to really learn how to work with people and understand all the little nuances of it. So it was cool. I'm like I said, I'm grateful to have now 10 years of experience coaching and then my whole 17-year career as an athlete too, to kind of draw on all these things to help my kids just try and achieve what they're after and keep them safe too. I want them to do great and I want them to stay safe. I don't want anyone, we're in a very dangerous sport right now, very dangerous. So it's trying to balancing act.
How did it kind of progress, I guess, from that like the first sort of season or two with Louie and then kind of up till obviously, like with Shaun with him winning and I'm getting his third gold medal. I mean, how was those years kind of like leading up to that? I mean, you're sort of saying you were like picking up new things and you're improving as a coach, right?
Yeah, so I just entered the game of coaching. So I was private with Louie up to the 2014 for the Sochi Games.
Okay.
And I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but we took a hard loss that year. Talk about timing, going into it the year before him and Shaun were at the top. And then Louie took a pretty hard crash at the US Open the year before the 2014 Olympics. In 2013, he took a hard crash, hurt his back really bad. And to be honest, it just set him kind of on this trend of going into 2014 games of like this, climbed his way back, but it's all timing, right? Where these other kids, they didn't have the crashes and they were a little under the radar, no pressure on them. And the competition just started going like this. So when it came time for the 2014 games, he didn't make the team. And that was a hard hit for both of us. Like, because the year before we were like dream team, winning left and right. Bad day was second and third to all of a sudden it's game time and he's got all the sponsors. He has a private coach. And we fell way short. Like we didn't even make the team. And that was a hard hit for both of us. We were rattled. So, it's not like I came into coaching and just won the gold. Like we got it dealt to us. It was a hard loss. So that hurt. And then 2015, I didn't really coach that much that year. It was kind of Olympic hangover. I just kind of rode a little. And then 2016, I got back into it. I was like, all right, I need to start coaching again and working and getting into this. And so when I came back, I wasn't Louie's private coach. I was just a coach working with, I had like 4 people or something.
Okay.
And Shaun was one of them. I actually ran into Shaun in New Zealand that year. And he was like, hey man, I want to come back for 2018 for Pyeongchang and redeem Sochi, because, in Sochi, Shaun got 4th and didn't even compete in slopestyle. So Shaun fell way short with his coach, and they parted ways. Me and Louie fell short. We didn't necessarily part ways, but we took a breather. So when I came back, I had Shaun, Louie, and a couple other kids, and we started ramping up for the games. And then about a year before 2018, Shaun was like, hey, you want to go private and just help me and just like really Sherpa me through this? And I was like, all right, cool. So I told everyone else, hey guys, I'm going to focus on Shaun. See you in a year. Here's some other coaches. Everyone got handled. And then Shaun and his team and I, we went off, and the rest was history. But again, that wasn't easy either. That was this close. We were this close to being a disaster. And same thing, I was getting flashbacks of 2014 with him. I was thinking, dude, we're not even going to make the team. He's getting hurt. He got
really hurt, right? I mean,
he got hurt bad. I mean, he ripped his face off, got a concussion. The month before that, we were in New Zealand. He fell super hard and like internal, I don't know, he bruised something, literally internal bleeding. Like he was peeing blood at that hot. We thought he broke his back. We were on a hot streak of big crashes. We were not trending in a good direction. And I was just getting flashbacks. I go, oh my gosh, am I this cursed coach who gets the stars and then can't get him to the finish line? I mean, I was under a lot of pressure from myself. I was like, is this me? Like, I can't get these guys, these great athletes, to the games. And I was so stressed out. So it was interesting. But so to accomplish that with Shaun, when he went in 2018 and won that 3rd gold, it was like, we were both just kind of like, couldn't believe it happened. We're like, oh my gosh, we did it. How, like, because sometimes when you want things so bad, I feel like it's rare you get them. And it was just cool that it just happened. We were like, oh my gosh, it worked. We were both so relieved. It was nuts. I mean, that's the lightest I've ever felt. I felt like I could fly. Like literally, I could have flown down. Like it was the coolest feeling ever. Talk about a natural high. Like that was crazy. That was amazing. That's
just having that relief.
Oh,
the pressure that you built up on yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, we put ourselves in the position to wear that weight of the world, and the pressure was on, and you just do countless interviews and all the stuff that it was crazy. And for someone like Shaun, especially 4 years ago, he was the face of the Winter Olympics for freestyle snowboarding. It's the Shaun White show. And it's really hard as an athlete and a coach, but for these athletes to go in with the pressure on and perform is so much harder than going in to maybe your first Olympics where you're the new kid and he's great, but we don't expect much. It just, when there's not that pressure on, life's a lot simpler. When you have to win, it's a whole nother game. It's really not that fun. It is dirty work, but if you can get the job done, that's the carrot. The reward is so good. I mean, we're both still happy about that. That was a big one.
And what do you say to them? I mean, kind of like now, like what's the sort of, I guess it depends on who it is, but if it's someone's first Olympics or like Shaun's, it's kind of been there multiple times.
Yeah, so it just, like you said, it depends on the person and their scenario. Each person's is different. If it's their first Olympics, and there's not a lot to say. They're not doing all the pre-media stuff, and people don't expect them to win. Now, when you have expectations, that's when you're earning your money as a coach, because that's when you see a lot of people, they don't even make it to the start gate. Let's look back at this summer. I mean, look at what was her name? Simone Biles. She didn't even get to the event, right? Her main event. She didn't do. I forget why, but I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't remember. I think it was she wasn't feeling good or something, or she got a little hurt. But let me put it this way. When you're expected to win and you are the main act of the show, you're not feeling good in the morning, putting on your snowboard boots and your gear. You're not like, I can't wait to get out there. You don't want to get out there. All you're looking for is excuses because you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. So these people don't, it's not fun. It's brutal, crippling pressure. And it's really up to coaches and teammates and people like us to just get these people out the door. Like my job that day was getting Shaun to the event. Like, yeah, they're not feeling good and they don't want to compete that day. Why would they? They have everything to lose and not a lot to gain. They know what they have to do is so grand. It's so hard just to get to the start gate. So I was just like, hey, let's just get our boots on and let's just go outside. I guarantee when we get out in that cold air, we're going to wake up. And, if you get out there and your body's not feeling good, we'll find a way out. Let's tell them you got a backache or you sprained your ankle in practice and we're out of there. We'll go home. We'll fly home tonight. He's like, okay, all right, cool. So you get out to practice, right? And then you just start practicing a little bit. And then same thing in practice. Like, I don't know. I can't see. I'm not feeling good. What do you think, man? Dude, you look great. You honestly look great. I think you're fine. You're so. He didn't look that great. He looked okay. But I was like, you just keep the train moving, right?
Yeah.
And then if you can do that, a lot of times, I'm going to say 8 times out of 10 with these people who are champions, if you can just get them to the start gate, the minute the gun goes off or their bib's called and their time to shine, they're going to step up. They will perform. But the hard part is just getting them to the gate because there's so much pressure. All they're looking for is ways out. And it's up to us to, I know, obviously, if they're seriously hurt or they're seriously sick and there's crippling things going on, yeah, you say, we're not going to go today. We're not going to risk your life, obviously. Yeah. But if you know them well and you can kind of call some bluff, you're going, I don't think you're that sick. And I don't think your back hurts that bad. And I don't think you're whatever the excuse is. You got to just push them out the door. I mean, we all need pushing in our lives. I need pushing. People push me. I push people. That's what we're here for. So I think with the upper echelon people who have the weight of the world on their shoulders, that's the name of the game, is get them to the start gate.
Yeah.
If you can just get them there, they're going to do what they can do. But it's our job to move them along. Where their first Olympics, you're just like, hey, man, take some breaths. You're calming them down. You're just like, hey, let's breathe. Let's just go do what you do. Calm them down. So it's just different.
And would you say like now, like, do you reckon the pressure's got way worse because like, well, I guess a few things. I mean, with the level going up, it's getting more dangerous. And then also the limelight, social media, things like that, that there's maybe more noise. I don't know. It's like kind of, how do you...
For who? For Shaun or for anyone in particular? Or what do you mean?
Just for the athletes in general and for Shaun, right? I mean,
there is more noise in a sense where we're all on our phones and we're all watching everything. But I don't know if it's really any different than it was pre-phone or pre. Okay. I think it's still pretty similar. You know what you have to do. You know what your expectations are. You know what you did in the past. And people are looking for you to do it again or even better. So
yeah.
I think it's pretty much the same, honestly.
And what are you so now, like, what are you working on, like, going into Austria, like when you head over there, and what's the program
for us in the US? It's make the team, right? We have this group of kids. We have like 8 guys, 6 girls, and they're fighting for 3 or 4 spots on the Olympic team. So I'm trying to help each one maximize their potential and basically get a run that will get them to the games. So step 1 from America is make the team. Like, and really, if you can make the team, getting a medal and winning all falls into place with that. So all you have to worry about is beating your teammates. Like, what can you do these next 2 months to perform your best and max out your tricks and go big and have good style and try and make this team? Because if you make the team, you're cooking from there. Now you got the snowball rolling down the hill, and inertia is going to pick up.
Yeah.
So we did the dirty work in Switzerland. That was a month-long camp. Now we're doing 8 days on snow in Austria, and this is kind of just refining. Just let's go and basically just get the rust off, make sure you're moving good, get back on the board, because we're going to come home and we have about a week off, and then we go right to Copper Mountain, Colorado, where the first event kicks off, and it just goes boom, boom. And so you're not going to get a lot of practice in Copper before the event. So this is
which is Dew Tour, right? That's kind of
it's a Grand Prix first and then Dew Tour next. But those are both huge qualifying events, and you're not going to have a week or two before to just dink around and warm up. So this is kind of last warm up before the big qualifying event. So it's just, I don't think you need to take. It just depends on how the pipe is too. If it's really good, yeah, let's kind of go crazy. But if it's meh, weather's meh, let's just stay on the board, stay healthy, get everything ready to go in Copper. So then when we get to Copper, we're not like, oh, we're a month off. Now what? So it's just a little refining here.
Nice. And are you getting to ride over there yourself as well? I mean,
yeah, I sneak in some runs, and we're going to this really cool resort called Kitzsteinhorn, where I recommend any avid snowboarder should go, especially preseason, because this place is made for snowboarding.
Awesome.
It's amazing. The contours of the mountain is just so surfy, and there's little 5-foot cliffs and little things you can ride up and surf around in the powder, and no one goes off the groomed run. But there's not a glacier, so you're not going to fall in any ice crevasse. You might hit a rock or something with your board, but it is fun. So I'm really looking forward to this place. It's one of my favorite places to snowboard. So I always try and sneak a couple runs in, 3 to 4 a day is all I need, and then I'm happy, man.
Nice. And then back at home, how do you keep busy? I mean, you're a keen surfer, I've heard. That's kind of
that's what I do. I just got out of the water today. I just when the conditions are good and it's fun, I just like getting wet, and surfing's my thing. I love surfing. I love golfing. I have a 4-year-old boy.
Okay.
I also sell real estate when I'm home in the summers and off season. So I have my clients at home. I'm trying to work in between my next trip. So it's fun. I stay busy back here. It's just part of it.
Nice. I've got a 4-year-old boy as well. Like, have you started him surfing? Is he into the?
No, he won't even get his head wet. He hates the water. It's hilarious. I need to get him in a pool this winter into spring. We're doing big swim lessons, so I can get him in the water this summer, because he likes the water. He loves splashing in it, but he is not getting his head under, and he doesn't like swimming. So I need to work on that. That's my bad.
Yeah, same with us. Yeah, we're doing getting him in swimming classes and stuff, and trying not to be that pushy. I kind of went we was trying to get him to go in the skate park maybe a year or two ago, and then now just not into it. So it's
same with my kid.
Shit, I don't want to make that mistake again.
I know. Right. Same with my boy. He's into trains. We literally ride. We go to the train station. We do train rides and just kid stuff, and I like it. It's cool. I'm not going to push him. I mean, he sees me doing my stuff, and if he wants to do it when he's older, he has a ticket. But if not, it's okay.
Nice. Cool, man. And what's the best way for people to follow what you're up to and kind of see what you're working on?
Instagram's the easiest for sure. That's where I'm most active, and that's about the only thing I have the time to do and enjoy doing, and that's JJ Thomas _ but that's my spot. I'm on there, and I kind of post our travels and everything we're doing, and kind of secret highlights of the kids and the behind the scenes view of it all. So that's the spot.
Nice, man. Cool, dude. Yeah. And any other travels out of curiosity? So places that you would kind of want to go to that you haven't been to, or either for snowboarding or just in general.
I want to go back to Japan to snowboard. If you haven't gone there, you should all go there. That's a great spot. And then I love my home of the whole western half of the United States for snowboarding. I love every year looking back, going to Aspen, going to Utah, Mammoth, Big Bear. I just love it all. It's good places, and I cannot wait actually to get back down to New Zealand too with this whole COVID thing. We haven't been there in 2, 3, 4 years, so that's a place I really look to get back to go snowboard there. I love it there. It's gorgeous country, and next time I go back, I'm gonna do a little surf trip up in the North Island, which I should have done long ago, and overdue for. So that's on the books to do.
It's got some amazing waves, like both islands. Like I
That's
was
what it
living in
sounds
Australia,
like.
and I went over. We did like a van trip around New Zealand for about 6 weeks when our
Really?
little boy was a couple of months old, and we kind of just went from the top of the North Island all the way down to the bottom. And the
Wow.
bottom's like, it's mad. It's cold, like really really
Right.
cold. Like you need like 5 mil and gloves and boots.
Right.
But you're out in the lineup and it's empty, and then there's like so you can see the snowy mountains in the background, and
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I need to
pretty good, man.
experience that. I'm gonna call you for some tips on that.
Nice one, dude. Well, JJ, thanks so much for your time, man. It's been awesome chatting, and look forward to seeing what you're up to, and good luck to everyone in the US team, and we'll be watching.
Thank you. Thanks for this time, and it's great talking this morning.
Thanks, man.